we're looking at the how. How do you grow people? How do you do this in your organization? We're going to talk a little bit about that. My guess is if your organization is like most organizations, you ask yourself the second question. Most of the training that gets done is task-based. It's teaching people how to do what the job is. It's teaching them procedural stuff. It's compliance-based stuff. And it doesn't necessarily focus on those other skill sets that we talked about. Okay. I'm going to ask you another question now, because I think this is really important. What do you guys spend your money on in training? Just kind of like, how do you measure that? Do you guys measure the actual training event, or do you measure other things? So the cost of the seminar or whatever, or the other stuff. Okay, because I'm going to tell you a little secret. Okay, this is the black art of training, design, and development. If they find out that I'm telling you this, I will lose my trainer's card. Okay. Training and development, corporate training and development is a close to $200 billion a year industry in North America. And depending on who you listen to, could be north of 70% of that money. You'd be just as good taking it out back behind the plant and having a bonfire and roasting marshmallows with it for the amount of good it does. And I just spent the last 2 hours telling you that you needed to invest in people and you needed to invest in training and all this other stuff. And now I'm telling you it's a waste of money. Okay? This is actually a fact. If anybody's interested, shoot me an email. I'll send you a copy of there's an actual study that was done, and they called it the Great Training Robbery, which I thought was kind of an interesting name for a paper. The reason for this is because of how the money gets spent and where the investment goes. Okay? There are three kind of things in training. There's what you do before the training, there's what you do during the training, and there's what you do after the training. Okay? The training department is involved in the training part, the event. But the interesting thing is the effectiveness of the training is determined before they get there and after they go back to the job. So managers and supervisors are the ones who actually generate the performance gain from the training, not the training itself. Okay? So the pre-learning things, the things that managers do to chum the water before the training event, represent somewhere around a little more than a quarter of the actual effectiveness of the training, is how the people are prepared to go into the training in the first place. The learning event itself, what we're doing in here, about 25%, 24% is what they say there. Okay? And then what happens after you go back to work is about half the value, half the change, half the effectiveness comes from the reinforcement that happens once those new skills have been learned, so that they can actually be applied. Okay? But what organizations do is when they're budgeting stuff, 85% of their training budget goes to the learning event itself. Yet we know that's not where the performance gain comes from. It's from this. The 5% they spend on support once people go back to the job, but they only spend 5%. But 50% of the gain comes from those on-the-job learning and on-the-job support. So when I talk about how, it's not only how you create a learning event, it's how you turn your business into a learning event so that there's constant reinforcement and constant learning and application on the job. because that's where the performance gain happens. Okay? So when you look at these numbers, it's pretty easy to see where, you know, that 70% of waste comes from, right? So that only just says, that sums up what I just said. So the idea is to design learning at the front line, delivered by supervisors, managers, and other employees as a just part of the way we do things around here, because we're a learning organization and we're going to constantly develop these skills. Okay, so the big question is, where do you start? How do you do this? Because no one does, right? How many people have ever been to a course and they came back and tried to apply it and had their boss say, yeah, we don't do that around here? Anybody? Everybody? Yeah? Okay. So how do you, because we don't want to be stupid and we don't want to waste money because we haven't got it to waste. So how do we generate the ROI? How do we generate this, the value? Okay. So in the military, everything we count in threes. So it's because we're dumb. But in the military, everything is in threes. Have you ever noticed that? Trust me. Okay. 3 men in a section, threes, because we can't count very high. So identify, quantify, rectify. Needs analysis, understanding what it is that drives performance, and then creating an environment that will help generate it. Quantify that, measure it, figure it out, and then put in place those pieces. So it's simple. Again, being in the military, simple is good. You know, given 2 different options on what to do, when in doubt, pick the easiest one, right? Because you can always change later. Okay. The cool thing is when you get to the identify stage, okay, identify skill sets. I mentioned looking at who your top performers are. What is it that makes them top performers? And at a guess, it's not their technical skills. Because everybody has technical skills. What is it that makes that person perform better than the other person? And at a guess, it's those underlying, those core competencies that I talked about. Okay? Used in the context of their technical skills to generate higher performance. So identify who the ringers are in the organization, and then really look at how they behave. What is it that makes them effective? What is it that drives that performance? Good. Bottle that skill, right? And then infect everybody else with it, okay? Quantify that set of skills, okay? Benchmark everybody else against those skills, because remember, these are learned behaviors. You can learn how to do this stuff, you know, unless you're, you know, and even I could say, you know, unless you're a deaf mute, you can learn to, you know, you can learn to communicate. You can still learn to communicate, just maybe not verbally. But the idea is these are learned skills, and so quantify them, benchmark the organization against those core skill sets. Where is everybody? Measured against your top performers. Okay? And then, you know, and I would say that's not an easy task, but it's worth it. Okay, it takes time, it takes effort, but it is worth it. This is one area where, you know, I lost my consultant card for telling you that training was a waste of money. This is one area where I'll say that depending on your organization, bringing in outside help to do this, help you do this quantification and understanding what the relationship is in those skills is someplace where you can actually make money, because it'll save you an awful lot of time and an awful lot of false starts. Okay, the time saved is often worth it because people get reinforced by the success that they see. And then rectify. And when we talk about you know, designing specific training, I like to talk about an apprenticeship paradigm. Okay, the same sort of learn from someone who's good at it, grow those skills iteratively over time, learning from each other in a mentoring and on-the-job training environment. A good apprenticeship, not the, carry bricks around and we hope you learn something, by osmosis over a period of time, but actual structured learning, on-the-job learning environment. And treat every single thing the organization does as a potential learning moment, with the idea of growing whatever those core skills are that you're trying to grow. Okay? Again, different way of thinking about it. But everything is a learning moment. Every mistake is a learning moment. Every problem that shows up is a learning moment. Okay? So the best way to fill the gaps that you identify in the organization in terms of skill sets is mentoring and coaching internally. Okay? And there's two reasons for that. Okay? The first, probably the most important one, is that it values the skills that your organization already has. And it values the people that have those skills. Right? There's nothing like being held out as an example of these skills within the organization and growing them internally, because then they become cultural. They become part of the way we do things around here. Okay. So, and if you do internal OJT coaching and mentoring, and if you do it properly, the ROI is through the roof. Okay. Oops. There we go. That's the one I want. Everybody familiar with Rosie the Riveter? Rosie the Riveter, she died about a month and a half. The actual Rosie the Riveter. Sorry, yeah, it's the actual Rosie the Riveter. The woman that they used to make the poster, she's 96 years old or something like that. She died about a month and a half ago. We were really sad. The way they took a completely untrained, completely non-traditional workforce and literally overnight turned them into highly productive workers, making high quality products. That's why we won the war in the Second World War. And the process that they used was all about OJT. And they trained people the same way you train a dog or a private if you're in the military, which is break it down, little pieces, constantly learning, constantly growing, never let them make a mistake, reinforce positive behavior, and eventually, and in a very, very short period of time, grow the skills. Okay? The ROI on doing things that way and growing through mentoring is unbelievable. They took one example using this process, this simple 4-step OJT process. Sperry Gyroscopes, company that was making the Norden bomb sights, lens grinding and all this other stuff. A lens grinder's apprenticeship in the 1940s was a 5-year apprenticeship. And following this process of rapid skills transfer from experienced workers to non-experienced workers, they turned that 5-year apprenticeship into 6 months with no safety issues, because hurt workers aren't particularly productive, with no quality issues because it's got to work the first time because there's a war on, and with an increase in productivity while the training's going on. Because we don't need the weapons next month, we need them last week because there's a war on. They saw incredible increases in productivity, incredible increases in growth, and a complete sea change in the way they trained people. And then we forgot about it in the war. Yep. We let it all go afterwards. But if you do this right, and you do it in-house, it's incredibly powerful. And it's all about taking the people with the skills and using them to teach the people who don't. And that knows no hierarchy in this kind of a system. So the janitor can teach the CEO stuff and mentor the CEO if the janitor has skills that the CEO needs. and vice versa. And because we have technology now, mentoring doesn't have to be one-to-one. It can be many-to-many. And it can permeate through the organization. So the mentoring behaviors, especially if you've got a crop of young kids and a bunch of old farts like me, having the kids teach me stuff that I don't know how to do is critical. Because now they're valuable. Now they're useful. Just like I'm going to teach the kids stuff that they don't know how to do. But it goes in both directions, and it knows no hierarchy. Right? That's why I always get your kid to program, I was going to say the VCR, but no one even has one of those anymore. Right? If you want to get, you want to figure out how to use a cell phone, you give it to your 8-year-old. Okay? That approach is critical. Where's my button? There it is. Okay? So and it's an iterative process. Anybody who's been through lean and product improvement and such, it's this plan, do, check, act, plan, do, check, act, plan, do, check, act, and around the sausage machine goes. Okay? So you learn a little bit, you make a few mistakes, you learn a little bit more, but you're constantly turning and turning and turning, and it's a never-ending process to grow skills. And every single thing, as I said, every interaction that you have with a client, every process, every production process, every problem that shows up, everything that needs to be troubleshooted in the organization becomes a learning opportunity if you treat it that way. So you get into collective problem solving. You force frontline leaders to make decisions. By not, you don't make the decisions for them. You change the way so that people are constantly thinking, growing, and then afterwards asking themselves, what did we learn? What went right? What went wrong? What can we do differently? What can we do better? Create that learning culture in a collaborative team environment, and all of a sudden those team skills improve, the critical thinking skills improve, the problem solving skills improve, the communication skills improve. And the deeper you look, this is the lesson from Toyota with their Kaizen and productivity improvements, is that the more you look and the more of it you find, the more of it there is to find. And it's a never-ending journey. And the same thing applies to improving people and improving organizational process. Okay. So it's a scary world, but it generates such incredible ROI, and it really focuses on that, on the job learning. That's how you do it. In 1961. The day after Kennedy said, we're going to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade, someone stuck a microphone in the face of one of the senior executives at NASA and said, how are you going to do it? Well, I don't know. We're going to learn our way there. And so they did. Every single day, figuring out, okay, we're going to go home tonight a little less stupid than when we came in this morning. And we're going to learn our way to the solution. And if you treat your organization that way, I said gains in safety, quality, productivity, and cost, which are the only 4 things that anybody ever measures, are absolutely incredible. Like quantum. Hundreds of % improvement as a result of operating this way. Okay? So, I'm 1 minute away from the exercise. So for anybody, I guess, did you send it to? Okay, good. I keep forgetting we got Hannah on the phone. For the employee, right, what do they get out of this kind of an approach? We talked about engagement. The reality is, you only get job security if your company is still around tomorrow. So if you can create an environment that allows people to perform better and generate more value, they have more job security because their company is going to be around tomorrow. They get a lot more satisfaction out of what they do in this kind of an environment. And so I've got I've got data going back 50 years to prove it. They get more meaning out of their work, which is what generates the more the satisfaction and pride, you get the whole person engaged. So they're coming to work with their brain as well as their hands, because you hired them from the neck up, not the neck down necessarily, right? From your perspective as an employer, as a manager, what you wind up with is a really adaptable, agile, flexible, nimble workforce that can solve problems and generate value on its own without intervention from management. That means you can get your head out of the weeds and start looking downstream, which is where managers are supposed to be looking, right? Your whole thing should be future-based as a manager. If you're dealing with firefighting, you're doing it wrong, right? That's what frontline leaders do. That's what the foremen are for. Managers need to be way ahead of that. You wind up with a much larger pool of skills, many of which you didn't even know you had in the organization. You get the whole person engagement, which generates the better outcomes. And ultimately, what this generates is better value for your customers, which results in more of that. Okay? You get more of it. The employees get more of it. The customers get more value. It's win-win-win. There's no downside to this. It's a really, really, really cool thing to do. So that's it. So now, you're going to do step one. It's your turn. So what I want you to do is, on your tables, there should be a thing that looks, it's underneath the photo consent form. Okay, you'll see an exercise. It's designing competencies for your organization. Okay, so it goes through the same steps we talked about. Okay, step one, figure out what it is that really matters to your organization in terms of the value that you generate, the core mission of the organization. Start by writing that down and not using mealy-mouthed, stupid management consultant kind of mission statements. Don't use those. Like, what is it that really matters? Yeah, what we'll have you guys do is join together and move some groups around. So if you guys just want to cluster together here. So what I want you to do, and this is, not everybody here is from the same organization. So, but what I'll have you do is start by scribbling this out from the context of your own organization. Okay. Then the next step is to look at how those values, how those core capabilities are expressed underneath the work that you do. How is it, if my job is digging a ditch, okay, we'll use a road building example, right? My job is digging a ditch, but what am what's the value that I am generating for my customer? And it's not digging a hole. It's creating a safe transportation corridor or whatever. So how is it that I express those values in the work that I do? Start thinking about that. That's step two. And then in step three, okay, what are the underlying competencies that allow me to generate value through that work? So is it my communication skills, the will to work in teams, and try to quantify what that looks like, what that means in the context of your organization, okay? Because once you've got to that, then and only then do you write a job description, okay? So based on the outcomes, based on the value that that position is going to generate and the underlying competencies that you want to select for, okay? Then you write job descriptions, okay? So what I want you to do is start by doing it individually, then get into a little huddle and start into a bit of a discussion around how this would work within your organization. We'll give you about 10 minutes to do that. We don't necessarily expect you all to get finished because it's actually a pretty difficult process. The homework assignment is to actually go and do this in your company. Try it. And if you have problems, give me a call. Send me your samples as you come up with them, because I'd love to see what you guys come up with. And I will critique them and tell you, here, maybe you should think about doing this, that, or the other thing. Okay? So on your tables, start by thinking about core value, and then work through the exercise. In about 10 minutes, we'll reconvene. We'll talk a little bit and discuss some of the ideas that come out of this. Wrap it up, and then we can go have lunch. Okay? Thank you. Okay. So, what we're going to do, we're going to actually start with Hannah. They're ready to roll?
They are. Sounds good. So in answer to your questions from earlier, and the questions that we posed to the team and Hannah were, and I'll just get it over here for a second. What really matters in your organization? How do you demonstrate it at your job, and what really matters? So the mission that they've listed here is provide learning and leadership, building people, businesses, and community capacity. Their values are innovation and creativity, personal growth, leadership, community focus, and collaboration. In terms of their step 2, they said on-the-job coaching as well as employee development to help them do their job better and provide flexible work schedules to meet individual needs. They express values in their work by providing good services and supports. Also, team member skills are recognized and valued. And then in terms of step 3, underlying competencies are teamwork, communication, empathy, and integrity, and ethics as we work with individuals and community organizations.
I have one question for the Hannah folks.
Okay.
Back to value. The statement that you made is very much focused me outwards. Think about it in terms of the value that you provide to the client. Value as seen through the eyes of the customer. Because what you do doesn't matter, it's how they perceive the value from what you do. Okay. I'll say again what I said to these guys. A buddy of mine named Dov Gordon. There's only 2 reasons why anybody ever bought anything from anybody ever in the whole history of humanity. Either because there's something they have that they don't want and they think you can get rid of it for them, or there's something they want that they don't have and they think you can help them get it. And if you think from the customer perspective in terms of the value generated from the customer side, why do they come to you? What value do you provide them? That changes the way you look at this at all. And it changes it from an outward-in perspective as opposed to an inward-out perspective. And I think that's very helpful because it's all about generating value for the customer. Yeah. How about you guys? These guys are cool because we got actually 2 companies. And they're actually you got pairs from the same company in this thing. So this will be an interesting little exercise. But what is the value that you guys provide? How do you demonstrate it?
I'm actually going to take one from Chelsea here. She wrote it really well. So one of the values, providing ethical customer service that positively impacts the community. And so ways that we go about doing that, just positive interactions with customers and keeping that family atmosphere between, like, promoting that with our employees, and so that our employees can turn around and promote that with the customers. Furthering on that, even things like our activities that our employees are involved in the community, the company likes to be involved in that as well, promote, sponsor those types of activities. Striving to do the right thing. We have a program in some of our locations where it's called My Empowered Decision, and so it gives the employee the flexibility to go above and beyond in certain situations that they feel applicable. And so they can, if it's like throwing in free windshield wipers or just something like that, to really go above what the normal experience would be.
Okay, so I'm gonna flip it around for you again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if I'm the customer and someone was to stick a microphone in my face and say, "Why did I buy from these guys? What value do I get? Because I got a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Why these guys? What value is it that you provide them with?"
I think some of that customer service that you said with Nordstrom's is what they try to strive for.
Yeah.
Like, for example, you can take your car to get a lube, like a oil change anywhere, right? And it is not, the dealership is not the cheapest place to do it in comparison to like your 1 hour lube places. But they try to make it so that, I guess the microphone, so that they have that like superior customer service to these places, and they have more skills and more that they can offer. That's part of what they strive for.
Okay. All right. How about you guys?
A few of the things I wrote down for our company is one, we really embrace our people and we let our clients know that. We try to run the best equipment through our Ride It Right program, and we let our clients know that as well. Our experiences through our third generational company. We have 250-year-old or 250-year employees, so we try to let our clients know the type of experience we have. Our knowledge base, our efficiency and production abilities, that we're problem solvers. We include them in our client appreciation. So if we have milestone celebrations on projects, they're included. Our safety program and our partnering programs would be our values.
Okay. And from the customer perspective, again.
Yeah, and I think one of our lines, I'm just trying to remember it, 100% customer satisfaction 100% of the time. And it's a lofty goal, but we've actually been able to attain that year in and year out. But there are some putting your hands to the plow kind of stuff to get there. Mm-hmm. And Jonathan mentioned a lot of them: teamwork, scheduling, efficiencies, time management, stuff like that. Yep.
So again, when you think about you guys are building roads, what matters to the customer?
The road is flat.
The road is right. The road is right. The road is on time, and they don't have to rebuild it next year. Right? So,
yep, exactly.
That's and so how do you embody that? And that's the next step. But it always comes back to, take that off here. It always comes back to, what is the customer buying? Okay, so we'll go up to the front here, and we'll kick it around a little bit more. Anybody got some ideas they want to volunteer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Just some things I had kind of just have it jotted down in like point form. I don't have any paragraphs or anything. A lot of ours is to do with customer service, so like the quality of the service and the product, efficient and timely service, professional communication, things like that. Obviously, happy employees. Teamwork is very important. From a customer perspective, I guess like satisfaction and quality, like of the product and everything. I think the customer cares about like community involvement too. That's something that they think of. Yeah, that's all I got.
Okay. Pass the cube. Feel like a James Bond movie. Pass the shoe.
So with us at Volunteer Lethbridge, volunteers are important. And volunteers are individuals, but they're also corporations, teams, groups, anybody who wants to contribute their time. And the not-for-profits are important as well. So we have two main pillars. So serving the not-for-profits in our community and serving everybody else to connect together in a way that's meaningful to them. So connecting community, creating opportunity, strengthening the community, but developing individuals and developing community engagement and really being able to respond. Like there's an increased number even of businesses who are taking corporate social responsibility seriously, but how do they even start? So with volunteering and businesses, what is it they would like to do that aligns with their mission and purpose? And how can we connect them to opportunities that might enrich and enhance that experience?
Okay. Anybody else? Ideas? Thoughts? Come on, don't be shy.
It's not wordsmith very well.
Doesn't have to be. I'm all for simple.
Okay.
You know,
So
like I said,
again,
if you can't scribble it on a T-shirt, your mission statement's too long.
Okay. Delivering quality dental care to patients, and allowing our patients to have happier functional lives by improving their dental health and smiles. Treating our patients and employees with dignity and respect, and provide an environment that our employees feel proud to be a part of. And I just said respect, community stewardship, and teamwork, and never forgetting the customer experience.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you guys are in dental, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and no one likes going to the dentist.
We're the second happiest place on earth.
Second happiest place?
Well, Disneyland. I mean, who trumps Disneyland, right?
Okay. You're a different kind of dental shop than I've ever been. Most people go
Gotta
to
come check us out.
You know, maybe, right? But I mean, that's not an environment where people generally, you know, think of, yeah, that's going to be a happy place to go.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, in dentistry, I mean, well, probably anywhere. I mean, people are scared of us. There's fear, and there's finances because, you know, money's a factor, and it's about convenience. So it's if we can kind of tick off all those things in the eyes of the patient, you know, break down those barriers for them, that's really what our job is to do. Give them a happy smile and break down those barriers.
Yeah, get them in and out.
Well, no, give them a relationship and a experience.
See, because I get annoyed because I'm from an era when you went to the dentist and the dentist checked you out, and then if you needed a filling, they filled it, and so you're in and out. You know, a whole year's worth of stuff done in the same afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And now you go in, and it was my experience anyway. Is we'll do this on this day, and then you come back in 2 weeks, and we'll do this, and we'll come back. And it's like, just do it, get it done, and it suits their business model to do it that way, but it doesn't suit my lifestyle.
You know what, though? I think it's with any industry, in anything, whether you're private practice or not-for-profit, or you just have to know what your patient needs, or your client, I guess, in your case. And it's about building a relationship with it. So if you know and you can read your client or your patient well and build a relationship with them, you're going to know that they want to be an in and out guy.
No one's ever.
Or there's going to be a patient that you read that maybe needs a little bit more understanding and knowledge, and it's about understanding people. And we start at an early age. We bring those little kids in before they're 2 years old to ride the chair, to be comfortable with us. We don't do any work on them. We want to build a relationship. We want a good foundation. So
well, that's why it's the second happiest place, because you have the rides.
I'm just saying, though, in anything that you do, to be successful is know who your customer and your patient are.
Yeah, and see the value, again, it comes back to seeing the value from the eyes of the customer.
Patient, yeah.
Because from my perspective, like I said, this is my experience with my dentist, no one even asked me, you know, would I like to get all this done today? Good, we'll schedule that whole block, we'll get it all done. Never even occurs.
We do,
to ask.
And that's the thing. Like, we look at our patient, we talk with our patient, we determine, are they a same-day service kind of person, or are they somebody who needs to have this staged out?
I'm going to come to Lethbridge.
You're coming to Able Dental Group. Able Dental Group.
I'm going to come to Lethbridge to get my teeth done. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Okay. So we're almost out of time. In fact, we are out of time. It's a couple minutes after noon. Just to wrap it up, okay, a little bit of maybe some paradigm shifts here and some changing some ways of thinking about this stuff, hopefully. And so I've been doing this for north of 30 years. I'm still learning. It's a long and sometimes painful process. Evolution's like that. They get lots of mutations along the way. But hopefully this has given you food for thought, something to think about, something to move forward with. What I encourage you all to do is a last step on that thing is to actually go through that process for an actual job in your company, and then send me the result. And I want to see your homework. I say that after every session, and you can probably count on one hand with about 5 fingers left over how many I've actually received. But you guys are all keen, and right? No, I'm serious. If you want help, like I said, become an asshole. Throw it out there. Say, this is what I'm thinking, and then it's free. It's free consulting help. But I'm just curious did it sink in, and if I've annoyed you, that's I'm sorry. Comment on that. If you have any other questions about this stuff, if 2, 3, 4, 5 days or 6 weeks down the road you go, what the hell was that all about? You got my contact information. Give me a call, because I'll be glad to talk some of this stuff through. Are there any questions, concerns, anything else from anybody? Everybody's got to go back to work. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.